Welcome to Julie's Infinite Playlist. Today we have Dorsia. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
Fine.
Would you like to introduce yourselves and what instruments you play?
I'm Kelly, and I play my mouth and
I knew she was going to have something.
a little bit of the keyboard.
I'm Nick, and I play all of the music. A lot of the music is programmed because obviously it's very 80s
Yes.
heavy.
Where did the name come from?
I thought of it before I even met Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember when or where I was or what I was doing, but I was essentially watching the movie American Psycho, and they were talking about Dorsia, nobody can get into the restaurant Dorsia, and I just was like, I just liked how elusive it was, and so tongue-in-cheek. It was like funny at the same time, and it was just a good word, and I just was like, I was just sitting there watching the movie, I was like, oh, that would be a good name for a band. And then that was like my own little secret I held. And then, Nick and I met and we were talking about making music. And I'm like, what do you think of this name? And he's like, I fucking love that. That's perfect. So it worked out.
Nice.
Band names have always been a big struggle for me. And this is going to be terrible to say, but I think most band names suck. You just kind of you don't question them. Most of the bands that you hear someone talk about or something, it's everyone's already heard them, right? Someone's telling you about them. The first time I heard about Coldplay, I like to use them as an example because everybody knows that I love that band, so no one should think that I'm speaking poorly of the band.
Right.
But if you are objective about it, what the hell kind of name is that?
Yeah.
I would actually love for you to be able to ask them.
I would never interview Coldplay because I don't like them enough to interview them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, same.
Well, don't say that on public record.
But
Fine with that. I also will never interview Taylor Swift, but Justin Timberlake.
Talk about a dumb band name. I don't know where they came up with Taylor Swift.
How did each of you get into music?
I started taking piano lessons. My mom just got us all in piano lessons when I was young, and I enjoyed it. I found it to be very therapeutic, even as a kid. I remember that. And then I just enrolled in band. I was singing. Well, actually, I should step back. So we had auditions at my school for a soloist for one of our concerts, and I just decided to do it. I guess I thought I could sing. Maybe my mom told me that. I don't know. Friends told me that. I was in a little choir for the Blue Water Bridge opening ceremony. So I don't know. I every kind of little opportunity, I was always accepted and everything. I'm like, okay, so I'm kind of good at this. And then, we had auditions for the solo, and so I had to sing in front of my, just 5th grade class. They played the song, so the song was Auld Lang Syne. They played, the recording. They're like, okay, this is a song, learn the song. And I imagined in my head, as a 5th grade, a 9-year-old girl, I was like, okay, well, they like that, so I'm going to try and sound like that. And so I just pretty much tried to sound like that. And I got the solo, sang in front of the school. So that's kind of when I first started performing. And then I was in band in high school. I don't know, I just got along with the choir kids better. And so I was in choir. And then, so then in college, I auditioned for an a cappella group.
You can hear her singing with that group actually.
Oh yeah,
on Spotify. Ladies First.
Nice.
Shout out. But I never really had voice lessons or anything. I think what I would try to do is just mimic who I heard. So when I was in elementary school, I would listen to Jewel a lot. So I feel like I can sing exactly like Jewel.
I feel like I assumed you had some voice lessons at some point.
Not until I was in college. And I wanted to learn how to sing operatic style, so I took 6 opera lessons, and that was my first voice lesson. I think what I had to learn on my own was how to belt and project. Star. My mom would always be like, louder, make sure you're singing louder, and that's hard to get, basically get through that.
You're a very supportive mother. That's good. I'm just,
She's always pushing me to be my best self.
Because some people don't have supportive
that's true.
Parents. My mother is also incredibly supportive. So
I wasn't sure if you were being sarcastic or not.
No, I was being serious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Nick's regular voice sounds like a sarcastic voice.
Yeah.
It's really confusing. But obviously, because she was paying a lot of attention,
Oh, yeah.
She
we were
cared
very
enough
close.
to be to give you, a detailed.
Mm-hmm. She was my voice coach.
Yeah.
There you go.
Trying to be your voice coach anyway. After college, did you still do singing stuff? Or?
So I've sung at lots of friends' weddings.
That's right. Which I feel is how you know that you should, at least in your peripheral view, like, which obviously you did, but like to be thinking like I need to find a way to really get into this. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
If people are asking you to like sing at a wedding or something,
Yeah.
it's like,
How'd you get into music, Nick?
well, both my parents, but my mom first. Well, I really can't say. I'll have to ask her about it. I don't know if I just made this up in my head, but I always say it was my mother who got me the Mickey Mouse drum set when I was like
Aw.
2.
That's adorable.
Pretty much like it was the day that I came to America 'cause I'm adopted, and it was like 1.5 or 2 around there when I came home for the first time, and like in my earliest memories, I had the Mickey Mouse drum set, and then it really just was like for the first like 8 or 10 years would realize that I was listening to music. I was listening to music in a way that it seemed like other people were not. So example. Most people understand the concept of like harmonies, right?
Yeah.
Or layered vocals at least. So listening to a song on the radio, and I distinctly remember saying to my parents, like, do you hear that there's more than one person singing? And they said, no. And I was like, there's definitely more than one person singing.
Yeah.
So I was trying to ask them, like, to explain to me basically what harmonies are.
Yeah.
Because really, if you don't have a musical background and you're casually listening to a song on the radio, the way that a lot of harmonies are done is that it really blends in.
Yeah.
So anyways, because I remember it so vividly, I now realize must have been a really big like moment
Yeah.
for me. So I knew that I wanted to do both like chorus and band. I think it was in 4th grade we were able to start doing that. So I started doing the classical percussion at 10, privately sought out some Latin instruction, which you can actually hear in our songs a lot. And then started doing jazz drumming in addition to all of that in high school. Started self-teaching keyboard and guitar. Was doing like choir, chorus that whole time. You know, and then like was in however many stupid like pop punk bands in high school. And that basically took me through high school, and then went to college and kind of just brought like an acoustic guitar and spent like all 4 years of college. Like I didn't really drum or any of the other stuff. So yeah, I really just did that in college, which was basically like me taking time away from the musicianship and trying to learn like songwriting. And then after college, I was in like one fairly legitimate like touring alternative rock band as a drummer. So I did that, and then ran out of energy for being in the van for 17 hours, got an office job, and things kind of really started to slow down musically. Tried to be in like a couple other kind of underground bands. Started learning like studio-ish home recording kind of stuff at that time. They really just like slowed down, and in 2014 moved to a different part of the world. And then when we came back to America, we came to Austin, and then I met Kelly. Well, I came back to Austin, I heard a band called The Midnight. God willing they ever hear this.
Somehow I came across the Midnight. I don't even know anymore because I learned of so many bands nowadays.
Well,
that
I
just,
wouldn't be surprised if it was me.
How did this band come together?
Oh, man. Craigslist.
Craigslist.
It's not something to be ashamed of.
No,
It's
just
It's
like
not
kind of
something
come
to be proud of
Right.
either.
The reaction most of the time from the few people I've talked to about it is always like, what, really? No way. You know? How? And I know why that's the reaction, because it would be mine too, especially in a city like Austin, which is, number one, has a lot of people, and number two, has a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
And number three, has a lot of musicians on Craigslist. You just, like, you don't
expect
everyone
it.
gives up on Craigslist after,
Okay.
like, the 4th or 5th time, you know? And I think it probably was the 3rd or 4th or 5th time that I tried to, like, get on Craigslist myself and be like, is there anybody out there that I could possibly connect with? So I had heard The Midnight, had that whole revelation, and I made a song. It was like the most official venture into like producing a song that I had ever made. And I had like made a website and everything for myself and all of that basically with the mentality of like, I need to do as much as possible to like, I don't know how else to say it, but just like make myself like appealing to hopefully someone talented.
Yours wasn't the only ad I responded to. But I mean,
Don't get
you
big
did
head
have a
about
nice ad. But yeah, you kind of had your shit together. He had like
Nice
a professional
ad.
photo of himself. He had a very drive-inspired song, and I liked that a lot. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Do you remember the name of your first band?
Oh, God, what was it? Because it changed the name, so let me try and remember the first name. So I know that the name we had longer, which was changed to, was Point the Way, which is, really like just like a nothing bland.
It's not the worst one I've heard.
And then before that, it was something really like kind of like trippier. I want to say Colorblind Spectrum. It was really funny is we played a show that was like a benefit for the town library one summer, and the librarian lady was just like this kind of like stereotypical librarian, and she was introducing the band at that benefit, and she called us "Color Me Bad."
Amazing. So great. I wanna sex you up.
That's funny.
That is amazing.
And that was when we changed the name.
Did you change it to Point the Way?
Yeah. It's very safe to the point of being terrible,
Right.
but like a safe name.
Right.
You
It was
know?
probably trendy at the time.
You've had one show. What would you like your shows to be like? Since I feel like it's not quite there to.
Better than that one, for me.
Nick was playing in 2 bands that night.
Well, honestly, the real reason that I don't want to say a bad time, but that I had
Everybody
such
was playing
an anxious time playing our set was just because everything between the bands getting there to that moment became very hectic. Yeah, like up
We were a
until
little rushed.
up until the second we started playing, it was kind of panicky.
I think it's a good question. I'm just trying to, I haven't really thought about it, but I'm thinking maybe we could do more with like lighting and making it a little more artistic
Yeah.
in that way.
I'm definitely right there with Kelly. Just that's a part of like when you think about like 80s stuff, especially like pop.
I've seen a few bands bring in like extra lighting type stuff, and it's
Well, we
interesting.
did actually for that show. Actually, I didn't get to ask you about this because Kelly and I like didn't get to even interact
Yeah.
after we walked off stage. But were you blind on stage? 'Cause I was getting.
Was I facing the wrong way?
I say it like you fucking blind. What was that performance, Kelly?
Was.
No, I was asking because we had these 2 kind of little small spotlights, and just the angle that mine was happening at. Like I
couldn't
couldn't
see.
look out to the audience without getting a lot of
Okay.
that light right into my eyes.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't blind, but the pictures that I saw of us, you look like Patrick Swayze from Ghost because
Yeah.
you're like a blue color.
What's your favorite thing about playing live?
Hard to say, honestly. I know that I've usually had a good time playing live, and I've never really thought about why, and I don't know if I could really put it into words.
I have 2 things.
Good. So she's got 2, and I have none. So
I think kind of the adrenaline is kind of fun, and I'm also excited that it's almost over.
yeah, that
I
actually.
get that.
Yeah, I'm like
actually-
excited. Oh, good, it's happening. It's almost
You
over.
know what I was
Yeah.
thinking about that earlier today because I've been trying to. Yeah.
All of that time leading up to the performance, all you're doing is focusing on
Yes.
getting the performance right.
Took
And then when it
me-
happens, no matter how good or bad it is, you're
You
just
don't
like,
care.
Right, you
it's
did
fucking
it.
over.
Yeah.
Right, the
Yes.
relief of when it's
That-
done. I felt like I could enjoy myself. I had such a good time after, like hanging out with my friends and everything
Yeah,
and
yeah.
talking.
The weight gets lifted.
So usually whenever I go, specifically when I go to shows, a lot of times I get a high from all the energy. And then coming down from that can be kind of depressing. So I can see how that might also.
It's like the whole thing about a show is getting some kind of thing like that. When I saw Bleachers, it was like the first time since probably the last time I saw Bruce Springsteen that I had gotten so like worked up at a show. We didn't talk about before, but like when we talked about like getting into music and like our respective musical paths, like that experience time and time again was like what drove me
Yeah.
to do any of those things
Yeah.
that I was doing.
True.
Is that experience.
Yeah.
When I saw Leaky Lee, I cried. And that's when I realized I'm like, I idolize her so much.
For all of the, cried when I saw this person live thing, like I will cry just sitting at home listening for the millionth time to, insert song here.
Oh, I was just going to say the soundtrack for
La La Land.
La La Land.
Yeah.
You still
oh
cried
my
at that?
God, yeah. It's to the point where, and you obviously know this, but it's like, like once a week or something, I'll be like, I need to cry.
So you
let
just
me
put that on?
Put on that. And you've got to listen to the whole thing to get the payoff, which is not the case with some other things. So like Lullaby by Billy Joel, guaranteed, like within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'll be
Just
like
bawling.
a real puddle.
Yeah.
Something Fine by Jackson Brown, Jungle Land by Bruce Springsteen. But again, you've got to, and you would never skip to the end.
Yeah.
But you do have to listen to the whole like 8 minutes of it because it's at the end where he takes you there, takes you to that place, and the reverb on the voice and
You know what?
what?
This is going to probably make you laugh, but the one song that I know for sure is going to make me cry is hearing Justin Timberlake and Anna Kendrick do True Colors. And I know that sounds so dumb because it's from the Trolls soundtrack.
It sounds dumb.
And it sounds ridiculous, but there's like a lot there's a lot behind
judge you
it than
for
more
that.
than just that, but like every time.
I don't think I've ever cried from listening to a song. The only thing I can think, and this is I have the worst one.
I want to sex you up.
Butterfly Kisses.
Oh no, that's not the
so
worst. That's
the
No, that actually
cheesiest.
that would
It's
make me
the
cry
most
too,
basic.
honestly.
Yeah.
but
So-
according to your LaCroix personality test,
Orange.
having
That's exactly
her favorite
So,
is orange LaCroix. She's
My
basic.
sister and my dad danced to that, obviously, at my sister's wedding. And I think my dad's birthday gift from my sister later that year, she got like a canvas print of one of the pictures of them dancing together with lyrics from Butterfly Kisses. And my dad opens it, and I started crying. And my dad was like, "Why?" Both my dad and my sister, "Why are you crying?" Because
I
it's
would
just so
cry.
sweet.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like if I was within 50 yards of
Yeah,
that,
no, I just
I
started.
definitely would start
and they
weeping.
both looked at me like I was
So
crazy.
beautiful.
That's what
They're
you
like,
have
Julie, we know you cry all the time. And it's like, well, you know what?
That's what you have to label this episode as Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah, that one definitely reduces me. What was that Green Day song? The acoustic one.
Oh, yeah.
The Time of Your Life. That was our
Good riddance.
graduation
Oh,
song.
yeah. Ours was
good
the
ones.
Foo Fighters.
Nice.
I know,
Damn,
but
you had a badass group of kids.
Yeah.
Holla.
2005, whatever school you went to. Good job.
Port Huron Northern.
Good.
You're
That's not
welcome.
your. That's not your corny shit.
Not at all.
No,
So
it's
some-
good.
some
I
awesome
don't know who
shit.
chose it, but
What is your writing process like?
oh, it's fun.
Oh, that's a good question. It doesn't feel long, but it must be really long. God. Come on, people.
It took me a second on that one, but I was just like, damn.
That's good. Anyways, I take it back anyways because we did the last 3 songs in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
From nothing. So
Yeah,
it
I
took,
feel like there was never a moment where we're like, hey, let's try to write music together. It was just kind of like, it just started happening.
see what happens. Yeah.
No, usually I record the melody and Nick's like, I love it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. First time, every time. Actually.
Yeah.
That
Pretty
is- That's,
much.
That's awesome.
I'm like,
That actually
is
like
it
a
good
really-
or do you just like everything?
That is a really good like fun fact.
Yeah.
For Dorsia, the writing process.
It's all just
pretty
been
much
spot on immediately.
like easily over 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Like her first thing that she just hums into her phone and she's listening to a musical
Yeah.
idea. I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah, and it's funny how like I'll listen to it, I'll kind of hear something, and then I'll kind of sing like a melody over it, and then I kind of do it like 3 times or something, and it's funny how you'll just keep singing the same little parts here, like you can kind of pick up on it,
Oh yeah.
and then I usually send like one of those versions over to you.
See, I was right. This is the much more interesting half of the process because there's actual like there's work being done
Yeah.
rather than with me. It's a lot of up to that point.
There's a lot of work.
But it's like it's tedious. It's just a lot of like fine kind of nitpicking musical ideas. Less noticeable, but hugely more important musical changes will happen after I feel like we've decided what she's gonna do.
Yeah.
She'll have these ideas, and then she'll send me little clips, like different versions of one idea for the same part and different parts of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like so much that it happens kind of quick. I think.
Oh
there's
yeah,
a
but then
lot-
like that's why like he sent me something yesterday, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to it until I'm ready to sit down and put an idea into my phone, because so like I'm not just procrastinating. I'm like
Right.
I want to have the time. And not like a lot of time, but I want to have like 20 minutes where I can sit and just.
And just be in the right headspace.
Yeah,
and
because then
everything.
you'll also you'll start listening to it and you're like, oh, I think I want to do this, and then if you don't immediately record it,
Right.
then
You
you, don't
can
have
hear
that
something
anymore.
immediately.
Which is really dangerous.
Yeah.
Because my feeling, obviously, is a lot of the first things are the best things.
Yeah.
So you have one shot that is crucially important that be the case.
Yeah.
And then she'll have all these, what I think are wonderful ideas. And like she was saying, like, I will listen for small things that she's repeating. And that's always like my number one, like, that's probably like a chorus idea
Yeah.
or something. Because if she's coming back to something, that means it's where it wants to be.
Right.
It
needs to be done a few times in the
Yes,
song.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then pretty much the only other process is she'll keep coming up with ideas. And the only thing I'll really try to do is sometimes she'll have like so many good ideas that it's just a matter of like, okay, let me pick out my favorite like melodies,
Yeah.
little lines that she's doing and just put them in an order that makes like what I feel like is a
That's
good
helpful,
melody.
too.
Yeah. From my end, it's like, okay, well, I know where the music can be taken to.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially because sometimes I don't know where the chorus is.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in some of our songs, it's almost quieter in the choruses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Miami, the first chorus, the music pretty much drops out.
So I just kind of let it.
It's basically like she comes up with a lot of like, I guess you could say raw material, which my input once that process starts is just trying to structure it to its best self.
But when it comes to words, sometimes, when you're writing the melody, you can start to hear words coming out. The possession begins. No. But like when
Something just overtakes me.
I start speaking in tongues. It's a lot of pee-pees and poo-poos. Usually, we work very hard to not write pee-pee and poo-poo in this song. But Without You was the first song that we wrote together. That was my first.
And it's still my favorite
Songwriting experience. Mm-hmm. I've written like lyrics and stuff growing up.
Yeah, I keep forgetting.
Poems.
Yeah,
I'd never written any kind of melodies or songs or anything.
I would never have been able to, you could have told me otherwise and I wouldn't question it.
No. But so like Without You, we kind of, when we were getting the melody, making the melody for that, Without You just kind of came out, and
which is great.
Yeah.
That's like magic. When that happens, that's when you know.
And then how we wrote that song is, I don't know if you remember, but I had just like lyrics, or I just had poems that I would write, just little short things that are just things that pop in my head.
I do remember.
And I had this from a couple of years ago, and I was a procrastinator with that song because it was like our first one, and like things that I care about I tend to put off. I'm like, oh no, I gotta wait till it's like right, or I'm in the mood, or whatever.
It's good to finally know that it's because you care about it.
I've
and
learned
not
that in the last
opposite.
2 weeks. I've learned that in the last 2 weeks.
I definitely had some moments, and we've never talked about this, but I definitely had some moments during that time of like, I don't know if she cares about this.
Maybe it was both. No, I definitely did care, but I was just like, didn't know how to do it, and I'm scared that I'm gonna fail. You know what I mean?
It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, so like I was supposed to meet him in like 30 minutes before. And so like I took the poem that I had, and I was like, I literally just kind of like, it just kind of fell into the melody. It was really weird. And then we tweaked it a little bit. We added a couple lines, like in the second verse.
It worked
And,
well
yeah.
and easily.
Yeah, for that one. Not the other ones as much. But
Yeah, some of the other ones was a different story.
Miami too I wrote really quickly. But
The first two took me forever and took her like 5 minutes.
yeah.
It wasn't the opposite with the other three, because the other three were all done really in like 2 weeks, but it definitely was,
Much more challenging.
there was more work involved on that end of the writing
Yeah.
Yeah.
process. But I think that might have also been because at that time,
We just had more pressure, like of a timeline.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had gotten some
Yeah,
unexpected
true.
feedback, which was good.
Positive feedback.
Yeah, but it was a kick in the pants to act more swiftly.
Yeah. So who are your influences?
So influences like
Well, this was going to be my question. Influences on the music that we are making, or influences like, oh, I heard this person on the radio when I was 5 and it...
Both.
Okay, well, which should we do first?
Let's do for Dorsia right now. Dorsia or Dorsia?
Dorsia.
Okay.
I think when we met, we talked about how we liked pop songs that are very melodic. We talked about loving Celine Dion. I think when I'm trying to like find a melody, I'm drawn towards angsty kind of choruses and keeping the verses a little simple. So I think kind of like churches.
The churches is interesting because I never thought about that, and then people shared the almost finished mixes with
Yeah.
a few respected peers, and a few of them were like
a
Interesting.
mellowed church.
yeah, like one
version
guy
of
in
churches.
particular says like a mellowed churches.
I don't really listen to churches, so.
I mean, initially, I was kind of feeling like Fantagram. I love her vocals, and
Yeah.
I love the heavy bass, but
That
our
was
music really doesn't sound like Fantagram.
That was a point of struggle for me.
Yeah.
I kept feeling like, oh, well, I need to try and take it in that direction, and it basically like reached a boiling point where there was one day where I just like ended up like texting Kelly like, I can't, like I keep trying and I can't do it. It doesn't work.
I would like some fat bass lines, though.
Yeah,
And then
I want to fatten up the bass sounds for
Yeah.
sure. There's a lot of things I want to try.
Yeah.
So back on track is my answer. to the question.
Yeah,
The Midnight, definitely,
obviously.
and the 1975.
Yeah.
So from my end of it, musically, anyone who was familiar with both of those, now that I've said that, I think would be like, oh yeah. And it becomes something different than both of them, which is good.
Yeah.
Definitely. But in my mind, like, at least this first attempt for us was easily, on my end musically, like half and half. Like,
Yeah.
how can I marry these two? Can I put them together? Can they lie in the same bed and make sweet, sweet musical love?
So who are your influences overall for music? Bruce
You
Springsteen.
always talk about Jewel.
My first love.
I had a thing for Jewel back in the day, musically.
I never
Oh,
got.
She was one of the first artists where I felt like, oh, music can be really serious.
Yeah.
Who else? Who put you on the musical path? Artists. She was a big
so
part of
Lisa
it.
Loeb's "Stay" was my favorite
yeah.
song,
That's a
and
good
even now I listen
Lisa
to that song. I'm like,
Loeb.
that song rocks, and I love the video. It's so simple. So then from there, it was kind of like Tori Amos, Ben Folds, all these singer-songwriters.
She's
Yeah.
dark, Tori Amos.
I know.
That's
I like
that's
her.
where the moody in our moody pop comes from. Right there.
Yeah, I mean, I was never afraid of like sadness in songs.
Yeah.
I kind of embraced it. I liked it.
So we have Lisa Loeb, Jewel. We talked about Jewel.
Taking
Tori
me back.
Amos. Tori Amos. If you say her name 3 times, she
She just appears.
That's true. She was scary.
she just shows up with a guitar.
Ben Folds.
Mm.
Ben Folds I listened to like into college and everything.
Like, okay, so for me, easily John Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls is the first that always comes to mind for me as songwriting inspiration. I mean, the Goo Goo Dolls definitely ended up going in a certain direction, and I just think it's kind of a shame that that's what people think of, because they were like a rock band
Yeah.
before.
Iris.
Like starting in like the like long before that, like
Yeah.
mid-80s.
They were around in the mid 80s?
No.
Damn.
I
Like
never really cared
86,
for
I
them.
think, was their first.
Except
They're
for
a
Baby's
year
Black
younger
Balloon.
than I am?
Originally, they were like thrashy punk.
Really?
Rock, yeah. I was really into them for a long time. But yeah, his songwriting, I mean, like Name, that song is like.
I literally only know Iris because I didn't really like that song, so I never listened to anything else by them.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know your name.
Yeah.
That one.
So I won't tell your name, but.
I won't know your name.
It's just one of the more powerful songs I've ever
Your
heard.
name.
Sure. So him, John Resnick, and then Jimmy Eat World once again. To them, defined both lyrically and musically. Defined like a lot
Futures
of
is one of those albums that I just, every time I listen to it, I'm just like, this is fucking amazing.
my Bruce Springsteen, Always and Forever.
Would
I
he
almost
even
wouldn't.
say
I do like. I don't even need to say it.
He
you know?
would sometimes wear a bandana on his head to work,
I
Springsteen
still
style.
do, Urban, like every other day.
Who do you listen to that you think would surprise people?
Well, there's nobody I listen to that would surprise anybody. Anybody that knows me. Like,
There's not anything that
would
you
they be
listen to,
surprised
like-
by?
I think the Carly Rae Jepsen thing is quite
Yeah.
surprising.
Because
I don't know a single other person
Because
who
we
likes Carly
literally,
Rae
like-
Jepsen.
90% of our conversations are about music.
I guess.
What about the people that you don't have?
Well, I guess that answers the question.
Almost.
If Kelly
Yeah.
finds that surprising, I don't know how I haven't talked
No,
to
you-
you about her before.
No,
but-
we've talked about it, but I think I was
The first
surprised
time
when I heard that.
you talked about it.
But see, that's not fair because I think that what's behind that is just that I think a lot of people that last album of hers went unheard to a
Which is
great degree.
terrible.
Yeah, it is disgusting.
Everyone
And
go listen to her album.
Everybody
right
had
now.
right, it was because everyone has her in a box. So I think that's the reason that's surprising. When people go then and listen to that, because I've had this happen. So
Yeah.
like I said Carly Rae Jepsen to somebody and they were like, what the hell are you talking about? But then they went and listened to that album.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh,
Because everybody
never
thinks
mind.
Call Me Maybe.
Right.
And she is more than just that song. Even though that song is
So-
amazing and I
like
still
that
love it.
So that's a great song.
Still love it.
Everything about that song is pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm going to think about it because I don't think that that's a fair answer for me to
I
give.
think it is a fair answer, but if you want to think about it more, you can.
The reasons are wrong.
Okay.
Right? I'd like to come up with an answer that people would genuinely be like they're familiar with the music and they
Right.
were also surprised that I liked
Okay.
it.
I think mine might be like Die Antwoord.
That is kind of surprising. I am always surprised when anybody says they listen to Diane Ward,
You know what
honestly.
people
so-
might be surprised by is my love of old school hip hop because people have had that reaction
Really?
when I've like been hanging out with them and I've thrown that on.
See,
People were like, "Oh, you're into this
Really?
In my bubble, like, there was no presence of that whatsoever. It was Celine Dion kind of thing, which is better even, I'll say, but she's like the greatest singer.
Celine Dion is amazing. I just think it's funny because a lot of people kind of like when you say you like Celine Dion, they're kind of like, really?
Yeah.
It's like,
I
why?
like Celine Dion.
She's amazing. Why are
But
you?
right, people are afraid to say that they like it.
There's
So are we talking
a lot of
NWA,
that, like,
Snoop Dogg?
yeah, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
man. I love it. I
Yeah.
love the production.
Yeah.
The rapping was different.
There's more realness.
In my
to it.
opinion, it was better, but I couldn't make any kind of like empirical argument as
Yeah.
to why. There was like a style to the way they rapped
Yeah.
that just was like groovier.
Yeah.
It's
There's a
groovy.
lot now that it's like.
Yeah, I think that's what it's just a matter of
Oh
groove.
yeah, it's all like
you
one
know?
note too.
Yeah.
It's just that's what I'll say.
It was
It's
almost.
the groove.
It was almost singing when they rapped, but it
Yeah.
wasn't.
It was rhythmic to the point of being like an instrument.
Yeah.
And not even just in hip hop, in every kind of music at this point, like I was saying 2.5 hours ago. There's a lot of people who just, I think they just do what,
What everybody else is doing.
which must have always been true,
Yeah.
but I think it's just so easy to be exposed to everything. you
Yeah.
know.
Why put yourself in a box?
All people can hear one idea, and then they can all do that.
Yeah.
And then they can all put it online.
Yeah.
So that's what's really going on. you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, I love old school hip hop, man.
I thought of another one. Tool. I like
Oh
Tool.
yeah, so that is. See, that surprises
Nice.
me.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think. I was always
Yeah.
more of a Perfect Circle guy.
I appreciate both. I probably listen to a Perfect Circle a little bit more. I kind of appreciate Tool a little bit more, but I think a Perfect Circle was kind of more what I was used to.
Why do you think that is? Well, I've
Because
always
I
been
love
curious.
how dark it is.
The Perfect Circle for me, I think they were a little more melodic,
They were.
which is right up my alley. That's always just like a conversation I like to have with people.
If you could write with anyone alive or dead, who would you write with?
That's hard. That's a long list.
I'm gonna limit you to one.
I don't know that I can.
Don't think about it. Just say it.
Bono.
Whoa. Oh!
Because you said One, and I thought the song One by U2.
I want to punch you in the face for that answer.
It's really only because she said One, and that's like one of their biggest songs is One.
I
I
don't
want
know
to
that.
punch you in the face for that answer.
I'll give you a different answer.
Do you not like U2?
No,
I don't like him
especially
either.
Bono.
Bono is not really my answer because he would not be my number one choice. Though I love U2.
I don't think.
You know, I'll
writing
actually
with
say
us is right.
Daniel Lanois.
Who's that?
Is he a
It's-
producer? Is he?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, he also recorded some of his own
Okay.
music released with him as an artist, but he produced my favorite Peter Gabriel album, my favorite U2 album, my favorite Willie Nelson album, my favorite
Dang.
Emmylou Harris album.
Wow.
Which is a great range of
Yeah.
artists.
Yeah. that's-
But to reference someone people know about, Peter Gabriel. If you don't think In Your Eyes is one of the greatest songs of all time, you're a fucking crazy person, and I'll fight you.
I think I'd have to say Dolly Parton.
Ooh,
Nice.
Great
That would
answer.
be amazing.
It would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Like you could just give her an idea and like it would be.
She
a
seems
time.
like a delight.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
She really does.
Yeah, and she's
See, that's somebody
Amazing.
who does an amazing job and doesn't have to be an asshole
douche, yeah.
at the same time.
But I
She-
would argue that most of her music, it's like an actor that doesn't necessarily take the darkest roles, you know?
Yeah.
Jolene has
Joe.
an unspoken sadness.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily unspoken even, but I think there's a layer of sadness to that song that people still don't really pick up on.
Yeah. It's kind of hidden.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
and
it's in her voice.
there
Well-
have been newer renditions of that song too that I think kind of tap into that more.
Yeah.
I think the story of how that was written is she just met a girl and she thought she was really pretty and she was like, "What's your name? I'm going to write a song about you." So I think it's actually all fiction,
That's adorable.
It's great.
but it just sounds so deep because it's all like minor and
But there's
makes
a
me love
great
Dolly
there's a
Parton
great
even
philosophical
more.
question. Does it matter even? Because once the song is the song, does it not basically become its own real story? You know what I mean?
it does. But you said the song was so much deeper or
Yeah.
something.
But I'm saying
there's a
that
sadness
there's a
to it,
layer
yeah.
of like
Sadness, yeah.
like she infused it. With
Oh no,
sadness
yeah,
that-
she, yeah.
So you can listen to it casually and read the words and you like it's sad. There's
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
sadness
it's
to
a
it.
great
But
perspective
then you
too.
listen to it really, and there's even more sadness just under the surface in the way that she sings it.
Yeah.
That's like unparalleled mastery of like artistry.
Where can we find your music?
Spotify,
In the digital realm,
Apple
right?
Music.
Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon. Like really all of the major, anything you could think of.
Is it on Tidal?
It is, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, everywhere digitally.
Nice.
And we have a website, actually, too, which is just
What's the website?
dorsiamusic.net.
And our Instagram handle is Dorsia_ATX.
Let go of